Anybody have any questions they'd like to ask Robert? You don't
Like where the loo is with the rest of the I should know the answer. What's this table made of? No, it's very lovely to be with you.
I can tell this is going to be a very serious afternoon.
Yeah,
What brings you over here other than a visit?
we've tried. KFC, the shop. Where were we today?
QFC.
QFC. That's somewhere else. No, QFC. We've got some good stuffing. If I ever need, I think to myself, QFC, yeah, I'm going to go to QFC and I'll visit Tom and Linda whilst I'm there. It's what I do. Fill up on my stuff. No, but I'm here to see the guys, and then later I go down.
Does that include me?
It does. It does. A guy is a girl, isn't it? In a sort of a way, or not? Do you know a little bit? Half.
What?
A guy is a girl as well, isn't it? Or not?
A guy?
It's just. Is that always
See
just
the guys?
boys?
Yeah, it means everybody.
Well, people say that.
Yeah.
He was actually pointing to you, Linda, when he said it.
Yeah. So, but no, then I'll head down and I'm working with a group at the moment. I'm working with a group of doctors, psychologists and counsellors. It's a 6-month program, and it's called Love-Centered Coaching, and we're working for 6 months together, mostly online. We do a 2-hour class every 2 or 3 weeks, but it's called Love-Centered Coaching because in psychology and psychotherapy and counselling, really love is a taboo word. You're not really allowed to mention it. I mean, as much as anything, quite honestly, for insurance purposes. There's a big fear around using the word love in the medical profession and in the psychology profession. And
What do you suppose that is?
yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot to it, and partly I would say what we're doing with love-centered coaching is what I basically first came across in Tom and Linda. Tom and Linda and I, and a group of us actually in Kauai, we had a number of conversations exploring spiritual counselling. The idea that the ego can't heal itself. You know, psychology can't heal psychology. Psychology can only really be healed by love. And it's very moving that I'm doing that program now, because it's really a conversation I started with Tom and Linda. Really, we started that nearly 20 years ago, I think.
Oh, probably more.
Yeah, 20 years in this lifetime. In the other lifetimes, you know. But
What did he tell us this morning in that regard about using love as a psychotherapy? You wrote it down.
There was a lot.
I asked you to write it down.
yeah, I know. Yeah. I've got the Ryder Cup scores here. I wrote those down for you. For anyone who's
Yes, those you
interested.
would write down.
Yeah.
So writing it down means you don't have to remember it.
It does, that's right. Well, we talked, I don't think I did write it down actually. We wrote something else down, Tom, for your book.
Yeah.
But we were focusing on the idea that it's only through loving that we will come to know that we are loved.
Oh, that was it.
That was a beautiful
Yeah.
That
thing.
was it, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Will we come to know what?
That we were loved.
That we are loved. Yeah.
Only through loving will you know that you are loved.
Yeah.
Sort of another turn on giving and receiving.
Yes. Yeah.
That's a great statement. We
Yeah.
should make cards of that.
Yeah. It felt, as ever, they are very beautiful words, but I think as ever, Tom was, I feel like you were in the vibration of love when you said it. So somehow it wasn't just, it wasn't just the words. It was the fact that Tom, I think you are love when you speak about love. And when you do that, it's just like game over. You just go, like nothing left to say. It's all there only by loving when you know that you are loved. So it was very beautiful. But that's sort of how we, those were the conversations. You've never articulated it to me like that before, but in a way that's been the conversation this whole time.
We started a group of everyone everyone who attended was a psychotherapist.
Yeah.
That had to be interesting.
It was very interesting. Each one of them was dedicated to centering their practice around the principles of love instead of the principles of psychotherapy. So it was, my goodness, we must have, I don't remember exactly when it started, but we must have continued it for several years.
65, somewhere.
I love that topic because I think I've learned that to the extent that you can love or you feel love, it creates the entire context of the encounter. It transforms the context of the encounter to correspond to that level of love.
Yes.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes, whatever the subject is enhanced by that, by coming from
The
that.
whole coloration,
Yes.
everything is affected by that.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's lovely. Yeah.
Anybody else have a question they'd like to address to Robert?
What other books have you done? Or like your top?
What's your name, by the way?
Tristan.
Tristan?
Yeah.
How'd you do, Tristan? Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Yeah. So, there's been one of my big sort of meditations over the years has been on happiness. And so I wrote a book called Happiness Now. And then another one called Be Happy, which was based on an 8-week happiness program that I created on the National Health Service in England. And then I turned my attention to success and had a really good look at success. So I wrote a book called Authentic Success. And then I wrote a book called Lovability, knowing how to love and be loved, which was,
That's a great play on words.
Yeah.
Lovability.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
I like that.
Lovability.
Yeah.
Lovability.
that word isn't in the dictionary yet. I'm hoping I'll have got it in there. That would be nice, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Is there kind of a door to happiness? Something like that, or
How do you mean, like
A book that Robert's written called...
maybe that's it.
the door to happiness? Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be nice.
I think there's that expression that that should be thought of in that sense.
What do you consider the door to happiness, just real quickly?
Well, I mean, it took a little while for me to work this out, but I think it's that the soul is already happy.
That's a lovely thought.
I think that's it. Really.
Already happy.
The soul is already happy.
Soul, I see.
Yeah, like the soul is already happy, but the ego is so busy searching for happiness that it hasn't stopped to see that the soul is already happy. So
So we put barriers to happiness?
I don't think it's that. I think,
No?
but well, it's You know, like how it says in the course, I think this extraordinary line right in the introduction to the course where, and I think it's such an important point, which I'm sure you guys will have looked at, it says that this course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, for that is beyond what can be taught. It does aim, however, at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence. And for me, what's so significant about that is it doesn't say at removing the blocks to love. It says about removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence. So nothing can block love. And I think in the same way, nothing can block joy. Joy is a quality of the soul. It's like a quality of the divine.
Yeah.
So we can be temporarily unaware of it in the dream, but I think it's like the soul is already happy. And for me that was the biggest thing, because I was always I was engaged in the pursuit of happiness. You know, I thought the pursuit of happiness meant that you eventually found happiness. But what I learned along the way is that if you pursue happiness, you've placed happiness outside of you, and until you bring it home, you'll never get there. So in a way, the pursuit of happiness is the biggest cause of unhappiness. And that's so because we've put it outside of us. So but if we know that our true nature, our soul is already happy, then I think we can do something with that. And so with the Happiness Project, I always said the goal of the Happiness Project is to help people stop searching for happiness and to start following their joy. And I think there's a world of difference. If you're searching for happiness, you're searching for something outside of you. If you're following your joy, I believe you're listening to the voice for love, and you're living a guided life. So.
It's also, if you're searching for something, by the very fact that you're searching, you're saying, I don't have it. And so,
the search
so
necessarily.
away from it, really.
Yeah. And there is a big line or a statement in the course where it says that the ego's edict is seek but do not find.
Yes.
Which is quite a curious one, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. It's an interesting thing to me how so many of the things that I thought I'd wanted the most, when they've appeared, I've been terrified. Like whether that's love or happiness or success or abundance or anything, it's like this seeking seems to perpetuate a sense of self. That self just is deeply compromised when love, happiness, abundance and good things come. It's almost like the ego can't really survive love. Yeah.
This is a very meaningful subject, so in keeping with it, how about each of us thinking what it is that we would most like to have right now? Just ask yourself, what is it that I would most like to have? What comes to you?
Peace.
So keeping with what Robert has just said, which is what we've talked about many, many times, that we already have this thing that we're seeking. What keeps you from the awareness that you are peace, that you have peace right now? Now, while you're ruminating on that, anybody else?
I have, I think, a mantra that I've only begun to repeat over and over when I'm just, and it's something that's helping me to overcome something I've struggled with for my entire life is I repeat that I am nobody, which means my true being is no body, no thing. I am nothing. I am nobody. If I can remember that, it takes away the fear of past and future, which we were just talking about, that when we're seeking for something outside of us or seeking for something in the future, it's because we fear it, or our awareness is clouded by our conditioning, our past. And so when we're outside the present moment, when I'm outside the present moment, it's when I think I'm somebody, I think I'm an ego, I think I'm a whatever it is, my conditioned being. So if I say I'm no thing, I'm nothing, or I'm nobody, it causes the humility to come in to the present moment. It's just something that's just occurred to me that's being very helpful.
How do you feel about the thought of being everything?
Sure, I mean that's the other side of it. Of being everything is the opposite to me of being no thing. I mean, in other words, my ego is no thing. Who I really am is everything. That's what it means to me.
Anyone else?
I'm reminded of the no body thing. Reminds me of my fear that I am a body, because I would like to say that I'm aware that I'm not a body all the time, but I often feel that I am a body, and I'm sure a lot of everyone does here. So it's like, in terms of what I really want, which is like peace, what you said, just peace, then things that come in the way of that is like me feeling like a body. And like one of those things is like just taking something as basic as like going to work, and like feeling like in our current situation I might have to have a job that I don't like for a while, and then I'm not going to enjoy, because I'm a body and I have to eat and I have to survive. And that's like a very basic thing. That's like one of the thoughts that gets in the way of me being at peace. It's like
It's just
survival.
It's just a slight diversion from that story. What is there about a job that would make it unlikable?
Monotony, a mean boss, unfriendly coworkers,
Now, Tristan,
all those things.
Tristan, just for a moment, ask yourself if any of those things are really beyond you, beyond your control, beyond your ability to change.
No.
Okay, stay with that thought. Anybody else?
I'd like to kind of follow that, because what I was hearing is that in a job, there's a presumption of confinement and limitation. And then what I think what you were alluding to is that it doesn't really exist, because you can transform all that to whatever you wish. Ultimately, I mean, the opportunity is always there, and so the presumption is false.
Here's what we're coming to, hopefully.
Yeah.
We say nothing is outside of us. Everything comes to us that we have asked for. So if I am everything now that I really want, then what are the blocks that keeps me from that awareness?
Our thoughts. It's our thoughts about it.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But what are those thoughts?
Conditioning.
What are the thoughts that would keep you from saying, right now, I am the presence of peace. I am the presence of love. I am the presence of being satisfied with people around me. I am whatever. What stops you? What stops you from going to that place and removing the blocks to your awareness of love's presence?
One of the things for me is that if someone said, "How are you?" instead of saying, "I'm okay," if I said, "I'm happy," they would think I was crazy.
Maybe not.
Maybe I am.
I don't think they would.
Really?
No, I don't.
I don't think half as many people would feel that way as you might have been.
No.
Where I came to this conditioning of wanting to again, we've all experienced ego issues our whole lives. And so when this came to me, I was listening to this person. And I have this friend who is I think is very well versed in the Course and a lot of other teachings. And sometimes I will ask this person a question. And a lot of knowledge, but they go on and on and on. And I can feel myself going, okay, enough. The ego is going, all right, it's time to stop. I've heard it, But if I can tell myself when I start to feel that way, you are no thing. You are no body. What's happening is my conditioning is starting to come up and cause me to feel irritated, or cause my ego to be irritated, and I feel myself when that happens to just back off and let it go. And then I'm okay. But if I allow the ego to come in and start, my conditioning.
I think what we're saying, Dan, is how do we become aware of what those blocks are so that we don't have that struggle? The Course says nothing real can be threatened.
Yeah.
It also says nothing unreal exists. Nothing created by God can be threatened. Nothing not created by God exists.
So we tell by where we feel threatened.
So what is it?
Where we see a threat in some
You're-
way
you're
to
coming to it,
our happiness, or to what we think would be,
Yes.
something that's going to ruffle our
So
trip.
what threatens you?
The opposite of what you want,
It's not really the opposite.
like peace, and you think that whatever's in the way of that is threatening you.
I think the big umbrella would be death.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Death, but then there's also death in all its little increments. The death of
The ego.
Sorrow,
this, the
pain,
death of
suffering.
the death
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
the death of this great moment, right? Like, though that's also suffering. These things we think are so great, and they should just go on and on,
But the ultimate fear is the death of the ego, is the death of our conditioned self. We fear that when our ego is in charge, when our ego is who's making us crazy, and that we fear that the death of that being. And if we see ourselves as not as that ego is not real, therein is the peace of God. To me, or to my
I've
consciousness.
suggested to you before the possibility that we didn't need to die. That the idea of death It's just a part of our story. How do you feel about that today?
What if our story is our journey back home? What if our story is just our journey back home?
What if we already are home?
Well, I think we are, but we don't believe
They
it.
don't know it. Yeah, we don't believe it. We know it.
But I think, for me, I think my
How
journey
would,
is
how would
mine.
death be part of that, I mean?
How would death be part of that?
Yeah. Let me rephrase that. How would the idea of death help in that journey back home?
Perhaps the death of limitation. The idea of the story itself limiting us, and by the end of the story, we are less limited.
Well, really, death also is the death of suffering. And we seem to suffer enough in this particular life,
Yeah.
and yet we somehow fear the idea of dying, which would stop all that suffering. So it's really how crazy we
Are
are.
you sure?
Huh?
Are you sure?
I'm just speculating, but
I've got another speculation. If now exists, there can never be a not now. Seems to me like kind of like a logical truism. It's kind of like my mind tells me that, but I don't know it.
So let's ask the original question again. If you could have anything that you want, what would it be?
Peace.
Peace, yeah.
to stop wanting.
Why?
Huh?
Why?
Because that would, by definition, mean I'm ultimately serenely happy.
It would be the acknowledgement that you already have it.
What's that?
Yeah.
It would be the acknowledgement that you already have it.
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
Do you think that God has everything, is everything? I'm asking Jim.
Do I think that God, what?
Is there?
Has everything and is everything?
Yeah. Well, I don't think of God as a personality at all. I think of God as love. So, in that sense, love has everything and sees everything. But I don't think there's this guy with a white beard up in the sky pulling strings. I just don't buy that.
Don't bust our bubbles. Yes.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to get at is I think along the lines maybe what Tom was talking about is that if God, the principle of God as love, or however we see that, as omniscient, omnipresent, and what's the third one? I can't remember right now. But everywhere and all-knowing and all-being. So the idea is if that's complete. Where I'm going with this is, if that was enough, why would God have created a son?
Why would God what?
Have made a
They've
son.
created a son.
Have made a son?
Created
Created a son. To
I think maybe we did.
Extend
Pardon?
the law.
I'm not sure if God created a son, especially the way how we tend to think about it. I think we sort of did that. We started projecting. That's what I noticed is that while I'm projecting, I've got this whole story going on. And when that ceases, oneness emerges, like the awareness of that oneness.
But does that mean
And I don't know that I can say, yeah, it feels like the recession of that awareness is usually when some thought starts with me, some kind of judgment comes into my mind, some kind of sizing of life. And
How does that reconcile with the Course saying we did not create ourselves?
well, that's also, Yeah, so if we're speaking about Son in terms of just extension of God being a part of that oneness, yeah, but I don't see it as two. I guess that's where,
It's an
when you said that, it sounds like you're speaking of the God and the Son, but to me,
Like,
they
yeah, like an outside
it's a
thing.
union, yeah.
But if God did create the Son, does that mean that the God and the Son are two different entities?
No, they're not.
Can't do that.
Then what does that do with the idea of creating?
Well, maybe it's just isness is all there is. In other words, creation would be making something more than what all it is, but isness is just
Extending
all.
isness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
That's what creation
Right there.
is.
Doesn't one of the lessons say that? I am as God created me? It does. Big swallow.
Well, I also think that even what the Course says is that our loving expressions, our loving extensions are saved for us. That has to have some weight of why we're here, to me. And I don't have a clue, but all of our loving extensions are saved for us. And for me, that's part of a reason. For me, it's a mystery, but it's
Who
part of
saves them, honey?
Who saves them?
Who saves them?
The oneness, maybe I do.
There you go.
The loving expressions, I save them?
Yes. What exists that you are not a part of?
So, I'm sorry.
What exists that you are not a part of?
I'm a part of everything.
You are a part of everything. So who saves them?
I do.
You do.
We do. The one.
And why do you do that?
Because those are real.
Because we recognize that that is the reality of our creation. So there's not a God who saves for us or on our behalf. We are the God.
I guess what I'm getting at is I feel like sometimes we crucify ourselves for being in a body. Right? And we well, we do.
What I meant by that is, don't we always
We do.
crucify ourselves?
But no, we don't. Not always. But no, we don't.
But I think what just happened there points back to this question that you asked. And the more I deal with that question, what do I really, really want? I think I want to know myself. Because myself is the source of that real happiness and peace. So I want to know, I want to find it here. I want to discover it here. Without those, whatever those mental projections and barriers are between, there's not even a between, it's somehow just those projections that keeps me from experiencing that.
What is the definition of that self that is looking for that? What is your perception of that self?
There is a definition to it. What do you mean?
The self, like,
It's just awareness. It's like awareness. It's like, it's
it
almost like getting awareness to turn back on itself and notice awareness. And then it's all, and then it's all done.
everything that the ego self sees is part of the dream. The God self, the true self, everything it sees is true. Where we get messed up is when our ego self is seeing what's going on, because it sees the dream, not reality. So who is looking is very important.
Yeah.
And that's where things get hidden from us, is when our ego is, our false self is doing and not just being aware.
Well, and what I'm feeling is, I feel like I've been on a journey closer and closer to myself.
Yeah.
Capital S.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know it with every fiber of my thoughts and being and whatever. I don't know. And I think there is purpose in that. And
Awakening is that purpose.
I don't know about the purpose, but basically, a journey without distance to a place we've never left.
Yeah.
Think about that, and you'll see that. That sounds like a dream to me, doesn't it? A journey without distance to a place I've never left. So, you know, inside that dream, we can be anything we want or nothing.
But what I'm saying is, I feel like there's been amazing progression in letting go of the obstacles.
There you go.
Yeah.
The obstacles to peace.
This little thing that I read last time I was here it speaks to that. It says, contemplate experience through the rising of the three conditions. Subject, who is my ego, the false self. Object, which is everything in the space and the interaction between the two. Each condition is empty, part of the dream. So then the other two are perceived as empty as well, part of the dream. You cannot attach to or contemplate one without the presence of the other two in this realm. These are causes and conditions having no real substance that rise and disintegrate into infinity. To me, that is probably the most profound thing I have read in a long time, because it speaks, especially, it's something that I struggle with every day, is my conditioning, my story. And that's when that rears its ugly head, is when I get all messed up, out of sorts.
What if we didn't see it as an ugly head? In other words, can you see the judgment in ugly?
Oh, yeah.
So, what if we just saw it as a part of the dream? There's another cool part of the dream, or there's a scary part of the dream. You know. I think, well, the Course tells us you can be hurt only by your judgments. Period. So, to me, waking up is about letting go of judgments. That's it.
Well, it feels like their emotions come with those judgments as well. And I know I've been lately, when I feel a strong emotion, I don't take it as mine. I just go, oh, there's anger. And it goes away. So I don't try to absorb the anger, but I realize it's arising, and I just say, anger's here. And just sit with it, not say it's good or bad, or just, it's here.
And that's the thing I have the biggest problem is beating up on myself when that happens.
I try not to do that.
Yeah, I'm getting better at it.
When you awaken, will you have something that you don't have now? Or will you be free of something that you think you do have now?
Yes, I think so.
Undoing.
And what would that be?
Well, it would be my belief that my life is attached to this body and the limitations the body represent, for one thing. And then letting that go would open me up to whatever else is available. The oneness, however that's described. I haven't had the experience that some have had, like yourself and apparently Nicole and Denny and a few others. But from the attempted descriptions at that, it's the idea of a body or a here and a there don't enter into that situation. So yes, I wouldn't be, if I look at my whole universe within this mind, call it an ego mind if you like, I can't come up with things that I can have experienced that don't somehow relate back to having a body and going through various little bodies all the way through, including to this apparent one. They can be altruistic things, they can be, but joinings, I still picture a body with someone I've joined with. If I have a memory of someone, I still bring up the body picture. When I have dreams at night, I still have dreams of beings in bodies relating to me. So that limitation would
You would be free of your beliefs, essentially.
Pardon?
You would be free of your beliefs.
I'd be free of all, apparently of all the past, and my mind apparently would hold on to the loving episodes within it, but not the bodies that seem to be involved with it.
And most of those beliefs are entangled in some way with being a body.
Absolutely.
So,
Earlier, you or Tom said something about the ego can't really survive, and then somebody else said something, I lost the last.
Can't survive love.
Was that what you said?
That's what Robert said.
Is that what
Is
you
that
said,
what
Robert?
Robert? Yeah.
That's
So
right.
that kind of answers our whole
That's a
question.
key right there. Loving, and through loving, you know yourself as love. Something that I have found extremely helpful that has at times, I don't know even how to describe that, brought on an awareness of oneness, is just being super focused on a single contemplative statement like that, or like you're talking about the two selves. Really, there's no two self. Doesn't exist. There's just one. So it's like, even though in the moment it seems like that's not the experience, it just stays so focused on that. There aren't two selves here. There's just one self. Somehow just so intensely staying focused on it. I've experienced that sometimes. It's almost like it pops something, and I knew one person that she experienced a massive awakening when a teacher of hers told her, she said, it's like trying to taste the flavor of your own tongue. And it was like one of those sayings that all day she would, and it was like a spiritual metaphor to something, right? So all day she's trying to, how do you taste your own tongue? And it drove her mad, almost to the point where then poof, and just absolute oneness and love and joy, and so it's kind of like that. Like, this is just an utter statement of truth. Through our loving, we experience that we're loved, and the real truth is there's just one self. There's no two, there's not even many, there's just one.
So what self is that?
To define it would be a
It's not even,
travesty.
you don't even need to define it. There's just one. It's being, isness. You talked about just isness is just is.
As soon as you say
It
that,
just
it's gone.
Yeah.
Well, form seems to be the stumbling block for awakening. Okay? Form. In other words, if I were taller, better looking, or whatever, richer. I mean, it's always about form. And yet we know that form is nothingness. Form is a reflection of a thought. It's not a thought, it's a reflection of a thought. So form, where we're looking for all the truth, we're all out there looking in the bushes for the truth, but we're looking in form. And if we could go to where, what would be the opposite of form? Formlessness, but that's defining something by its opposite. There's got to be a word, spirit, I guess.
That's another form, because it's another thought.
Well, we would make
You picture
some idea
picture
of
some
it.
ghosts.
Well, it's a concept. We would make
Right,
concept
yeah.
of it. Probably.
Well, you say,
Yeah.
in the spirit of cooperation, now where's the form of that?
Yeah.
You know, it's just spirit.
It's an essence. Yeah.
And yet that is still a concept. And that leads to the question of like why we're all sitting here. If not to discuss concepts.
That's a good question.
Because it's only me here.
So what do we call the absence
So why
of
am
a
I sitting
concept?
here?
No,
Will you stop projecting me?
I'll figure it out.
Good.
The concept of oneness has nothing to do with the numerical one. You got that?
Yeah, it's content, right?
Yeah.
If you saw 1,000 elephants and couldn't tell them apart and felt no desire to see the differences between them, how many elephants would there be?
One.
So you ask what I want, what we want.
Right.
You ask what we really want. I want to let go of every obstacle in my way so that I can come back and do this again.
Okay,
Nothing unreal.
obviously
exists.
that's where we're trying to go. So we ask the question, what is wrong with all of the things that I'm trying to let go of? What if I didn't need to let go of them?
Yeah, nothing's wrong with it.
Because if nothing unreal exists, what is there to let go of? We keep going in circles about talking about all these things that we are letting go of, and it's like the whole process of letting go. How can you let go of what isn't real?
We're letting go of illusions.
Right, everyone just jumps to that. Letting go of illusions, but an illusion is an illusion. Like, you can't let go
So
of
it's
it
not a problem.
because it's not real, so there's no
It's
problem.
not a problem.
Yeah,
So stop trying to let go of it.
yeah.
But we asked the question, why are we all sitting here? We're all sitting here because we came back to this process to awaken.
What if we're not sitting here?
Well, then what's the point in sitting here?
There's it's supposed to be a simultaneity of the separation and the resolution. And so somehow we're experiencing what never was.
I sometimes think that there is one body, and each of us is one cell within that body, and that body is called God. And so we're, the cells in the body, they come and they go. But the body,
Where did they go?
I don't know. If I knew, I wouldn't be in this room.
Yeah, see, we wouldn't be, if we all had all those great answers that are being thrown out here, we wouldn't need to be here in the first place.
Yeah.
So there's so many words that drive me nuts when all I really have to do is sit here and be still, and the answers will come to me. So yeah, then maybe there is no real reason for us all to be sitting here.
No.
Except
Maybe
that we don't all just sit here still. We get up and we say good morning to our families, and we go out into the world. Some of us go to a job, some of us go to the store. Some of us go
We
and deal with
cookies.
people who cut us off in traffic, and then we see, well, I'm not so still and silent anymore. Oh, I'm not feeling so loving. Where's the love? So that's why we're sitting here.
That's why we're sitting
That's
here.
why we're
And the
sitting
reason
So I
why
come back to the same question. If we're all telling stories about one of those elephants, and we stopped feeling a need to see a difference in any of those stories of those elephants, then what's the problem with the elephants?
None. None.
And what are we chasing?
nothing. And yet,
No, don't go there. It's no and yet.
No buts.
Yeah, it's just nothing.
nothing.
No matter what it appears
Because you
like.
can't chase yourself.
Yeah, it's just
That doesn't make any sense.
How far can you explain I am?
That's it.
Yeah.
That's the end of the
How
road.
far?
How
That's a good question. That's
how
such
much
a
more
good question.
detail?
He's got an idea about his
It's
old
the end
age.
of the road. I am.
What did you actually, what did you say?
How far can you explain I am?
Oh, how far can you explain I am?
How much additional explanation do you need to I am?
No.
I can't explain it at all, so. How's zero sound to you?
Well, I believe I'm here for training.
For
Training.
training.
Yeah, for the next life that comes around. I don't worry about it because I've been under Christ's wing for many, many years. A lot of years I wasn't even aware of it, but I would get a thought about going and doing something, and it would turn out much better than what I had planned. And that also led me to believe that I'm not in charge of my life. And I've had that proven to me several times. And towards, when he first revealed himself was 40 years ago. And I got the impression that he has a very fine sense of humor. And it didn't take long for me to figure that out, even as backwards as I was. And it got also to, if I had an accident or something, I didn't worry about it. I just asked him, okay, what do I have to learn from this? And then something would show up, and I would take it from there. One of my legs became severed in a job I was doing in San Francisco, and I wasn't worried about it at all. I was, on a gurney there at San Francisco General, and this nurse came by and she says, "Man, you look like you really need a drink." Lady, that's the last thing I need. And so the doctor finally came in and started looking at my leg and what was left of it. And I said, "Well, tell me one thing, Doc. Am I going to be able to go skiing this winter?" He says, "I wouldn't take this too lightly. You may not walk again." And I doubted that. I didn't say any more to him. But when I got home with crutches and all this assorted menage, I thought, well, gee, I'm going to be late for school. And that's when he grabbed me and told me, he says, "You're just going to school for the money. Don't worry about it." And so I didn't. And I don't worry really about anything because I know who's in charge. And it's not me.
If If you're not in charge, then who is?
Christ.
Who's Christ?
My
Love.
Savior.
Who's your Savior, though? Is your Savior separate from you?
Pardon?
Is your Savior, you're separate from you?
Well, I don't know where he hangs his hat, but he's pretty damn close.
Okay.
You
Hangs
know.
his hat right here.
Yeah, and I get to talk to him occasionally, you know.
Yeah.
Everything seems to work out fine. And if it doesn't, well, then there's a reason for that. So, like I say, I'm here for training in all regards.
How long does the training last?
Until I exit this planet, I guess. I'm not going to worry about that. I'll be told at the time.
I like your use of the term humor, because sometimes I'm inclined to think this is all a form of entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of what I recalled in my mind was when I was meditating, and meditating at a time I was very deeply depressed, and this brilliant little cartoony figure was suddenly, and I don't visualize very well, but this thing was very clear, a little cartoony figure with brilliant color was sitting there in my mind. And I just started to laugh. I couldn't stop myself from laughing. It's the damnedest thing. And here I was, so depressed, deeps of depression. And here I was laughing gloriously at this little image in my mind.
When you're depressed?
Huh?
Are you supposed to laugh when you're depressed?
I wouldn't think so, but I sure as hell was.
You're doing it wrong, Sam.
Am I? No. I never thought of it that way.
You're going to have to learn depression all over again.
Don't remind me. See? You were all laughing. Aren't we entertained? Wonderfully entertained.
Can't you even get that right in the dream?
No.
It's not.
No.
That's one answer to the question of what you're doing here, right?
Yeah. Entertainment. Yeah, certainly that.
Purpose of entertainment.
Tom, do you have the answer for us?
Do I have the answer?
Yeah.
Probably not. And probably.
What do you
But
want? What do you want? What is your goal?
Why do you think I asked you?
That's good.
Help me, somebody help me.
I asked the discussion we were having this morning, Linda and Robert and I asked Brother if there would ever come a time when I would stop looking for something, that I would feel complete. And he said, when you stop resisting, no, when you stop thinking that there's something missing from the love that you are.
Something
Yes.
what?
Something that's
Something
Missing
missing
from the love that you are.
Ah, wow.
Yeah. You know, when you really want to jump to the crux of something, you can always look at the last page. So, such a beautiful summary of what we've been heading to in each of these lines of discussion is on, I think this is the last page of the text. Yeah, it's the last page of the text in that last paragraph. Of course, you know.
Read that
And so
part.
he says, I'm not going to read the whole last paragraph, but the second half of it. It says, "Thy will is done, complete and perfectly, and all creation recognizes you," with a capital Y, "and knows you as the only source it has." So all creation knows you and recognizes you as the only source that it has. So one self. "Clear in your likeness does the light shine forth, from everything that lives and moves in you. And light, by the way, has a capital L. For we have reached where all of us are one, and we are home, where you, capital Y, would have us be.
Well, let's go home now.
We are home.
Yeah.
Where is there to go?
That says it so well.
Where is that
Yes,
It
again?
says it so well. It's the last page of the text, 669. Last page, and there's only one paragraph there, paragraph 12. So it starts, and now we say, Amen. Now we say Amen. For Christ has come to dwell in the abode you set for him, before time was, in calm eternity. The journey closes, ending at the place where it began. There's our journey without distance.
No
trace of it remains. Not one illusion is accorded faith, and not one spot of darkness still remains to hide the face of Christ from anyone. Thy will is done, complete and perfectly, and all creation recognizes you and knows you as the only source it has. Clear in your likeness does the light shine forth from everything that lives and moves in you. For we have reached where all of us are one, and we are home, where you would have us be.
What does that say to you?
Oh, that all of it is about, right?
And it's saying that it's already done.
Yeah, it's already done.
So if we believe that it was already done, wouldn't it be done?
Yes. Like that. It's just a shift in perception somehow.
It's the belief that it's a shift in perception.
Yeah. Well, that's even saying too much, a shift in perception.
Nothing to say.
I remember the story of Helen's doing the course in Absence from Felicity. And she asked early on, she asked Brother how she was going to know when they were done. And he said, I will tell you, Amen.
Yeah. And the Course says that in many places, refers to that. That last step is God's.
Yeah.
So it's our willingness. And that's what we're constantly speaking about, that holy instant, that the little willingness is what's needed from us more than anything.
So let's ask ourselves the same question we began with. If that's what we all want, to reach that point, to reach the awareness that it is done, that we're there. And the Course tells us that it is already done, except for our acceptance of it. Then we ask ourselves, what are the obstacles that I have placed in my awareness against this being already done? Isn't that the question I asked when we first began?
And
So what are they?
I have a two-part answer. The first part was the limitations of the body and how that's what I relate to in my waking life and sleeping life. And the second part is I don't believe that I have a good enough awareness of what lies in that awakening that makes me want it above all else. That I don't have even a feeling of it that is so attractive that it draws me without any worry about what I may be leaving within the illusion. So it's a two-part thing. One, I think my familiarity with with the drink, if you want to call it that. And number two, my lack of familiarity with awareness outside of it.
What was the question again, Tom? I lost it.
What are the obstacles that stand in your awareness between to the presence of peace, the way the Course puts it, or to your acceptance that you are, that it's done, and that you are awake now?
For me, it's the idea that there are obstacles and that I am not at peace.
Why do we have those obstacles?
We're fixated.
But why?
To me, Tom answered,
So I come
answered
back-
that question
That's
perfectly.
what
I
I
come
want to
back
know.
to the statement.
Why?
I know
What
it's
if all of this
fixation.
was okay? What if there was no reason not to accept all of the obstacles? If they're illusions, who cares?
Yes. That's right there. Just relax.
Copy that, yeah.
Just relax around everything.
So why don't we trust him? Why don't we trust that?
I have a dumb
Because we're
answer.
fearful, because we're in.
We're having too much fun.
But why? But why?
It doesn't even matter why that can make you mad. It
Yeah,
can make
exactly.
you crazy.
We're going
It's
crazy
just this
already.
relaxing. It's like this
Don't ask
relaxing of the mind. It's like not even letting go is too much. That's like this activity, but relaxing is like a full being exhale. It's just like a.
It's where the rubber meets the road.
So-
It's like Tom said here. I mean, the reason I'm sitting at this table is because sure, I can recite all this stuff, but then when it comes to living it, it's a whole different thing than reading it or speaking it or spitting it out. It's about where I have issues is where the rubber meets the road, where I'm actually having to, you want to call it apply it or remember it. Man, I don't know about the rest of you, but that's why I'm sitting here, because I don't have all the answers. Again,
Do you want it above all else?
I do. That when I miss the mark, I just go, my God, why did I do that again? What I want to do is wake up. I want to, I want. It's just like, and then I fear not getting there. So fearing and wanting are the two biggest obstacles to happiness that the ego puts in my face.
But what if you're okay with all that?
I'm not okay with all of that, because I'm not here just to spin my wheels. I'm here to get past all of this stuff that has caused me to come back here again in the first place.
You want to be not here.
I want to be not here, yeah. I want to be gone from here.
There you go.
That's keeping you here.
My ego, my conditioning that I have not been able to overcome. Because I'm
If you're the one who defines what here means and where here is, then you've just put yourself in an impossible situation.
Yeah.
I'm just.
Impossible, but for one thing, to accept the impossibility. Okay. What is forgiveness? The Course tells us forgiveness is the answer to all of our problems.
Forgiveness
What
is
is
seeing.
forgiveness?
It's just seeing.
The
right.
obliteration,
It's seeing clearly.
the undoing,
It's
the recognition that not what isn't,
It's the acceptance of what is.
Yes.
except what it is.
Yes.
Acceptance of what is. So the only question we can ask is, what is? What do you want it to be? It doesn't matter. That's how simple it is. It doesn't matter. If you accept in your perception, we say of yourself, but if you accepted your perception of who you are, just the way you are, it's over. There's nothing to change. There's nothing to become.
And will you feel awake?
I would have to.
This is so exciting to me because I just see it so clearly yesterday and today's lessons that Tristan and I, we have love holds no grievances, and then today is my grievances hide the light of the world in me. And that's exactly what I feel like so much what's talked about is looking at everything we want other than that is really, it's a grievance. I don't want to be here, I want that, I don't want to be this.
If you let go of everything that you believe,
yes,
the only thing that remains is what is.
yes, yes.
And where is the fear in that?
There's none. There's none.
It's a suggestion. Let's try to let's try to do it together. See what we come up with. Let's let our mind know when we really have the space. Let's just ask the God self. If there's nothing here but illusion in this world. And I am told that the real search and seeking is already over. That it was over a millisecond after I thought it was possible to separate. It was done. If all that is true, then what's wrong with me accepting everything? What's wrong with my belief that I can't get outside of God? No matter how I try, I can't get outside of God.
Why would you want to?
In other words,
See, that's what I'm saying, Jim. It's okay.
What's wrong with
It's
not
okay.
with what's not real?
Why I would want to or not want to can occupy lifetimes. But what if it's all okay? I can't go anywhere with it. I can't change it. All I can do is surrender it.
It's what?
Surrender it.
Surrender to it.
And I surrender it by allowing it to be okay.
That's the workbook lesson 268. Let all things be exactly as they are.
Exactly as they are.
Exactly.
But it seems to me you added a huge dimension on the meaning of forgiveness. I pretty much held the idea that forgiveness was an undoing of the illusion. But you added the other part, which would be the realization of what is.
Well, when you
The
let go of
acceptance.
what isn't,
You let go of what is and what's there. It would be reality. Right?
Yeah.
And so forgiveness is an idea that encompasses all of that, right? Am I getting it?
Yes, I think so. That's not exactly what I said, but I think that'll get you there.
Well, forgiveness implies that something was wrong that needs to be forgiven. And that's what
The
we need to disappear from.
The truth of the way the Course describes forgiveness, it says the only thing that can be changed is your perception.
Yes.
Everything else is created by God and is changeless.
So the two words keep us in the world. What's wrong?
Well, isn't it the idea? I mean, the only forgiveness there really is forgiving yourself.
Because there's
Yes.
nothing else to forgive.
Yes.
Yes.
That's right.
Forgiving your own perceptions.
Forgiving your own
perceptions.
You
stuff.
forgive your perception,
Yeah.
and forgiving it simply means to let it go. Because when you let it go, what remains is what is.
Like my grandson might say, forgiveness is whatever. I tell him that's not the way it's done. It's done this way. Whatever, he says. And I think,
why they would
guy's
say
much
whatever.
smarter than I think he is.
It's kind of interesting because this whole conversation has reminded me of a cartoon.
Boy, you're
And you allow me to go ahead with this.
Oh, please.
And the cartoon was of a psychiatrist, and then there's this guy lying down. And the psychiatrist says, they both have absolutely identical facial expressions. This poor guy on the couch and the psychiatrist is saying, I never looked at it like that. No. But this came to mind with all this.
Ain't that
You're going to have to learn depression, Sam.
Do another one. I like that one.
Well, it'll happen or not.
So may I ask, Robert, what impressions you have of our discussion? Any insights? Any insights? Not impressions. Insights.
you say.
You got to earn your way here.
He's a Dramamine, you'll be all right.
It's like, for me, it's sort of, I notice when it seems to me like my experience of myself is I'm either thinking or I'm loving. And
Very good.
And I'm learning to truly trust that love is very intelligent. But most of my thinking, even when it's trying, at best it's trying to understand love. At best it's asking questions like why. But actually, at some point, it's like I bring my love to the thinking. I get that I'm thinking about this. And I think, over the years, and increasingly so, I'm deeply, deeply comforted by the intelligence of love. And to me that's been probably my biggest breakthrough really, is that I know love is intelligent. And that love knows how to love. So, yeah. So I catch myself thinking, that's, I write. I do this, what I do. It's like, I'm writing away. But I think even with the thinking, there's what I'm trying to do in a way, and this is all words. I've loved everything, by the way. I've just got to say that I love that we can do this stuff, don't you? Isn't this amazing? We can all sit here and be together like this, and take a moment just to even know that we can think like this. It's so deeply radical still. This taking us to the last piece. Thank you for doing that. I just. And then we get to that choose once again. That whole piece, that's the final piece, isn't it? Choose once again, and the fact that we make the choice to come and sit around a table like this and think about choosing our thoughts or choosing our relationship to our thinking. I love that. So that's the bit I loved first, by the way. And then after that, I was just aware that, I'm either thinking or I'm loving. And I'm attempting to bring as much love as I can to my thinking.
Very good.
I think you just told us the title to your next book,
Which is
Intelligence of Love.
The Intelligence of Love. Yeah.
I was trying to mentally extrapolate what you were saying. And
Yeah.
It seemed to me you're also saying that love is all-encompassing.
I've been trying to think my way through this. I think also what's so amazing about this, and it's lovely what Tom mentioned as well, the story of the Amen. You know, that it's, you know, in any one person's story is every story. And I think we have the brilliant example of that in this book, because remember, this was Helen's personal journal. This is Helen's personal journal. Helen talking to the Christ, like Tom talks to brother, and you and I, we have that conversation with our guidance too. But this was her journal. And she was this very, very, let's remember, she was a professor of medical psychology. She was an atheist. She tried to think everything through. She was using the intellect to try to understand creation, if you like. And, you know, that's this bit she would ask over and over again, when will all of this be over? And the voice said, when I say Amen, that's when it will be over. That's why that last paragraph starts the Amen. Because she's like, this is 7 years. 7 years of wrestling, her mind wrestling with love. And that's how I see this book. It's the ego's mind wrestling with love. And that's why I call the course a love letter from the soul to the ego. Because I see that's how it really is. But it is, yeah, like this is an amazing demonstration really of, you know, of like, in a way, thinking, meeting, loving. And seeing we'll get lost in our thinking, but we will be transformed by love.
And the thinking can't really hold sway in that presence of love.
No.
It really can't.
Yeah.
The same way, how was it you who said that
The
the ego can't survive love?
Yeah.
It's that same thing.
It's the same thing ultimately, I feel.
It's
Yeah.
that same.
Yeah.
Such a beautiful, poignant way to be with that. Yeah, and it's not, and it can't be thought through and intellectualized, and it's a being thing.
Yeah.
It's a moment, you know, now experienced thing. And we can't even clearly describe it, but its intelligence makes it so clear what's true.
Yeah.
The question was asked. To me, it's so profound now, especially looking back, is that what are we all doing sitting here is to realize what you just said, because my conditioning my whole life is to be immersed in thought so I don't have to think about this airy-fairy thing called love that I was led to believe as a child. So it's a tremendous... A new mantra for me is the difference between, you know, love or thinking. And it's what a lot of the scripture, or a lot of the wisdom teachings teach, is be still. Let your mind be still, not be thinking.
I wrote down, either we are thinking or loving. To me, that's really profound. But the word thinking to me means judging.
Yes.
Does anybody else get that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the moment
and if you're judging, you're not loving. And if you're loving, you're not judging. It's like,
if you even look at that, because to even just be with that a moment, you think of being maybe in a conversation. The moment judgment comes in, I've stepped back. Now it's me and you. I'm not even connected to you anymore. I'm not with you anymore. I've got my ideas about you. Total separation.
Yeah, well, thank you.
So with the absence of that, there's oneness.
Yeah, thinking is kind of, it's time-based, it's linear, and it's caught in, trapped in time. And it's kind of like you feel you're stuck there because you can't think in a holistic manner.
I think that's the problem with thinking. It's the ego thinking that it's thinking that we're talking about.
That's right.
Because the Course does say that thought is life. Without thought, there would be no life.
I've got a good cartoon image for you. So this is my cartoon image for you, and it just says the words underneath are just "you choose," but you've got two doors. So maybe this is the door to happiness. I don't know, but anyway, there's two doors, and on one of them it says "lecture on love," and the other one says "love." You choose.
Choose, yeah. Good.
That would be my cartoon.
Yeah.
Beautiful cartoon.
It's fun, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah.
Have a lovely week.